Something is happening beneath your feet right now, and most people have absolutely no idea it's even there. Deep below the Earth's surface, far beneath roads, homes, and cities, pressure is building. Not suddenly, not violently, but steadily, silently, constantly. This isn't the kind of thing you feel when you wake up in the morning. There's no shaking, no dramatic warning signs, no sirens. And that's exactly why scientists are paying attention. They aren't panicking. They aren't making headlines or issuing alarms, but they are watching very closely. Across several parts of the United States, the ground itself is subtly changing, not collapsing, not cracking open, not exploding, but rising, shifting, tightening. Movements so small that the human eye could never detect them. Changes measured in millimeters, fractions of an inch. Yet when these changes happen across miles of land and continue year after year, they start to matter. This isn't science fiction. This isn't a movie plot. And this isn't speculation. This is real data. Information gathered from satellites orbiting hundreds of miles above Earth, from sensors buried deep underground, from geological records collected and studied for decades, all pointing to the same quiet reality. Energy is being stored beneath the surface, like a massive spring being slowly compressed. Day after day, year after year. The Earth is not a solid, motionless object. It is alive with movement, constantly adjusting, pushing, resisting, and when movement is restricted, pressure builds. The Earth doesn't give warnings the way humans expect. It doesn't announce its intentions. It doesn't follow our schedules. It doesn't shout. It whispers, sometimes for years, sometimes for decades. And those whispers are what scientists are listening for right now. Because history has shown us something important. The most powerful events rarely begin with noise. They begin with silence. Pressure underground doesn't disappear. It doesn't fade away with time. And it doesn't solve itself. It only does one of two things. It releases slowly. Or it releases all at once. There is no third option. Beneath the Earth's surface, massive tectonic plates are constantly pushing against each other. They move just inches per year, but their weight is unimaginable. When they slide smoothly, the energy is released gradually, but when they stop moving freely, when they lock together, stress begins to build, and it keeps building. The longer these plates remain locked, the more energy gets stored underground. Days turn into years, years turn into decades. Think of bending a plastic ruler between your hands. At first, nothing happens. You feel resistance, but it holds. Keep bending it longer. Hold it tighter. Increase the pressure. When it finally snaps, it doesn't snap gently. The Earth behaves the same way. And this is why underground pressure is dangerous. Earthquakes don't require dramatic warning signs. They don't need countdowns or visible cracks. Many of the most damaging earthquakes in history struck without obvious surface signals. Long before the shaking begins, the ground often deforms quietly. It rises, it tightens, it shifts by tiny amounts that most people would never notice. But instruments notice, and when scientists see these patterns, they pay attention, not because disaster is guaranteed, but because risk is increasing. The danger isn't just the ground itself, it's what we've built on top of it. Modern infrastructure was never designed for constant, long-term underground stress. Roads are engineered for traffic, not slow deformation. Pipelines are built to carry pressure inside them, not endure pressure from below. Buildings don't usually fail in one night. They weaken quietly. Concrete develops microscopic cracks. Steel slowly loses alignment. Foundations shift by fractions of an inch. And most of the time, no one notices, until one day, something gives way. and the structure doesn't recover. That's how real damage happens. Not suddenly, but silently, over time. The danger isn't fear. Fear makes people alert. The danger is ignorance, because pressure doesn't care whether we're watching or not. It will release eventually. The only question is how prepared we are when it does. The Earth has always moved. That part is normal. Plates shift, land rises and falls, pressure builds and releases. None of this is new. What matters is the pattern. When scientists look at what's happening beneath the surface today, they are careful with their words. They are not predicting immediate disaster. There are no countdown clocks, no emergency alerts, no doomsday scenarios. And that distinction matters, because awareness is not the same as panic. Most experts agree on one thing. This does not mean something catastrophic is about to happen tomorrow, but they also agree on something just as important. Ignoring long-term signals is a mistake. Pressure underground doesn't operate on human timelines. It doesn't follow election cycles, news trends, or social media attention spans. It builds slowly, sometimes over decades. Small movements that seem insignificant on their own can add up over time. A millimeter this year, another the next. Barely noticeable changes that accumulate quietly. And when pressure finally releases, it often surprises everyone. Not because the signs weren't there, but because they were easy to overlook. History shows us this again and again. Some of the most powerful geological events on record were preceded by long periods of calm, no shaking, no visible damage, just subtle changes beneath the surface. Silence doesn't mean safety. It often means tension. This is the hardest part for people to understand. We're conditioned to respond to noise, to alarms, to sudden movement. But the Earth doesn't work that way. Its most important signals are often the quietest ones. That's why scientists study patterns instead of moments, trends instead of headlines, years instead of days. They're not asking what's happening right now. They're asking what's been building for a long time. And that brings the question closer to home. Ask yourself this. If the ground beneath your city was slowly changing, by inches over decades, by pressure accumulating silently below the surface, would you even notice? Or would life continue as usual until the moment it couldn't? That question is at the center of everything scientists are watching right now. This isn't about fear. It never was. Fear fades quickly. Awareness lasts. What's happening beneath the Earth's surface right now is not a reason to panic, frankly, but it is a reason to pay attention. Because for the first time in human history, we are watching the planet with unprecedented clarity. Monitoring systems are improving every year. Satellites can now detect ground movements smaller than the width of a fingernail. Sensors buried deep below the surface measure pressure, strain, and motion around the clock. The data is clearer than ever before. And what that data shows is not chaos. It's a story. A story being told slowly, piece by piece over time. The Earth doesn't communicate in headlines or breaking news alerts. It speaks in patterns, in trends, in long stretches of quiet change. The real question isn't, will something happen tomorrow? Because no one can answer that with certainty. The real question is this. Are we listening today? Listening doesn't mean predicting disaster. It means understanding risk. It means planning instead of reacting. It means recognizing that preparation is not fear. It's responsibility. Nature doesn't rush, but it never forgets. Every inch of movement, every year of pressure, every moment of resistance is stored somewhere in the system. And pressure always finds a release. Sometimes that release is slow and manageable. Sometimes it reshapes landscapes. Sometimes it reminds us how small we really are. The only mystery is when and how prepared we are when it happens. The future isn't written yet, but the signals are already there for those who are paying attention. Stronger infrastructure begins with awareness. Smarter cities begin with understanding the ground beneath them. Safer communities begin when we stop assuming that stability means stillness. Because the earth is never truly still. It is always moving, always adjusting, always balancing forces far larger than anything we build on top of it. And that brings us to the final thought. Stay informed, not alarmed, informed. Pay attention to the signs, even when they're quiet. Especially when they're quiet. Because the most powerful forces on Earth don't announce themselves with noise. They move long before we ever feel them. If this video made you stop and think, if it changed the way you see the ground beneath your feet, like it, share it, and subscribe. Because the ground beneath us may be quiet, but it is never still.